Hello, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Hammercast. I'm your host, Alex, the Hebrew Hammer Salkin, and joining me today is one of my very own students, Mr. Justin Schooth, or as I like to call him, Future Man, because he lives in Australia, which by definition is in the future from pretty much anywhere else you're going to be in the world. I don't think there's any more futuristic land than Australia. He and I have been working together for quite some time, and he's had some really pretty awesome transformations in his strength and his fitness, in his athleticism, and all sorts of different things. And so I wanted to take a moment to interview him, talk a little bit about some of the cool things that he has experienced and some of the great progress that he's made, because I think you're gonna find it quite inspiring. Because Justin, well, and I'm going to let him tell the story, is not somebody who has gone on a super smooth road in many of his strength training, many of the elements of his strength training journey. Again, I'm not gonna give any spoilers just yet. I'm going to let Justin tell you all about that in just a second. And before we begin, if this is the first time you are hearing my podcast, or maybe if it's the, I don't know, 200 something time that you're hearing it, and you have not yet gotten my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge, highly recommend that you do. It is very user-friendly, very, very quick learning curve. It's all designed around movements that are in what we would call the gait pattern, so your walking pattern, stuff like crawling, loaded carries, things like that. And as the name implies, it is meant to be done in 9 minutes, and even cooler, it can be done in conjunction with your regular training. So there's no need to put your regular stuff off to the side. You can toss it in either at the beginning or at the end. I mean, in the middle, if you're feeling frisky. And great way to amplify the effects of your current workout program. So go to 9minutechallenge.com. That is the number 9minutechallenge.com, and you can get a free copy ASAP. It's just a quick download and a very fun read, I am told. So without further ado, Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Alex, how you going?
Good, very good. I'm glad we were finally able to do this. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times during our monthly calls, and I just keep kicking the can down the road. And finally, I decided it's time to quit kicking the can, and it's time to start getting you on the podcast. So here we are. Now, I have to say, by the way, I'm most impressed every time we talk. I mention this too. You're like the earliest riser I know. I think, like, just as a matter of course, it's probably like what, 5:15 where you are right now?
Yeah, 5:15 right now.
And he's been up for a while. He didn't just wake up for this. He happened to be, probably got a lot of work done prior to this.
Well, I did. Like I said to you, I love that daily 21s by Tim Anderson. That's sorted already this morning. So there's my minimal effective dose of movement is done in case my day turns to crap afterwards. So yeah, that's done. That's done this morning already. And when we finish this, if we got time when we finish this, I'll get into all my other strength activities, but who knows, we may not either.
Well, so, what, I'm going to try to make sure that it doesn't drag on too long, because I don't want to be the guy who's like preventing you from getting your pump on. So that's very important.
I prioritize that. If it doesn't happen now, it'll happen tonight. It's not a problem.
Good. It's a good attitude to have. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you have a very unique job title, one that has even taken you to farmland all over the world. So what do you do for a living?
So I'm a large animal veterinarian. I really spend most of my time working with beef cattle and horses. Part of my job is I consult to some of the largest cattle companies, largest feeder cattle feeding companies in Australia. So for instance, I'm from a little town called Gympie in Queensland. So you can look that up. I'm now in Texas, Queensland. So there you go. Coming to you live from Texas.
Live from Texas, yeah. Very cool. And now, I have to say, having worked I didn't exactly work in the same profession you did, but having worked with very large animals in the past, I lived on a kibbutz in Israel for like 6 months, and I was a raftan, as they say in Hebrew, or like, I guess, a cow hand. And, my job was basically like milking cows and stuff like that. But you're doing big stuff. I mean, you're doing like sometimes surgery, other stuff like that. Like, give us an idea of like what your day-to-day work would look like, because it's not just like helping Fido the dog.
No, it could be anything. It could be anything from like a calving, so helping a cow give birth, When I go and consult to my large feedlot clients, that could consist of out just doing staff training, which it sounds like much, but I had one of my work compatriots with me who's a bit more technological savvy than I am, and he worked out that we just done 12 Ks for the day in gumboots. So, like it consists of things like that. We'll do all sorts of surgeries on cattle and horses, which some of them are not the most compliant clients. So there's often a bit of wrestling going on there. Sure. Yeah, so it can be quite a fun and varied job, which does take a toll on my body from time to time. But anyway,
yeah, that's one thing that
just keep going.
Yeah, that's one thing to me that always struck me as interesting, because it's not. It's got to be a rough job, because like these are not the sort of these are not the kind of creatures that, like you said, always want to behave themselves. And if you got to grapple with a I don't know how much even weigh, a 1,200-pound cow or something like that, it's got to be it's got to be rough.
So most of my average pay, like my smallest patient would be, I don't know what it is in pounds, but my smallest patient, if I was dealing with say a calf or something like that, would be 50 to 80 odd kilos. What's that times by 2.2 into pounds? So almost 100 to 150, anywhere up to if we're dealing with some of the large bulls we deal with, well, they'll be 1,000 to 1,200 kilos. So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, because you got kind of a rough gig, you got to be in pretty decent shape. But my understanding is that you didn't decide to get in shape on the basis of your having, taken on this line of work. You were interested in fitness and sport and that sort of a thing from an early age. So kind of give us like an idea of your origin story. How did you discover sports, physical activity, and that sort of a thing?
Yeah, cool. I've always been into physical stuff. I guess that started way back, even in we call it primary school, but you call it grade school, I think. Yeah. It started back then, and realistically, I was a swimmer. We don't really have the high school college system like you guys do, so we have club swimming, and so I went through to what you'd call like a pretty high level within the high school / university type system. It was my main jam, and so back then I was absolutely through into my late teens and early 20s. I was an absolute endurance demon, and strong too. Like it was nothing for us as when we were playing with calisthenics, not actually out there training, but playing with calisthenics. Let's hop up in that bar and see who can do the most pull-ups. And 25 to 30 was, if you didn't do that, you were a pussy, basically. So yeah, right. So that was how I started. Started with that, and that went through. I kept swimming as my main jam, and we played with some free weights too. That was back in the late 80s, early 90s. We played with that sort of stuff. But about I suppose it would have been about 1920. I discovered beer and girls, and that sort of went on a little bit of a hiatus for a while. So yeah,
certainly understandable. Yeah, the interesting thing now is that it seems like it's come full circle, because guys are starting to realize, okay, I should actually probably look presentable. And so, because in America, I mean, I'm sure it's very similar in Australia, but like guys will start drinking even before the drinking age, which is 21 here, but they'll start drinking in high school, and they'll look somewhat sloppy by the time they get to their senior year, and then they're like, oh, maybe I should actually, start working out. But now one thing that I'm curious about, because you mentioned the calisthenics, you mentioned some weight training. And you mentioned then this hiatus. When did you get back into training? And was it strength training that you got into, or was it just other sports and physical activity?
No, I went back to, I decided I had a job straight out of uni. I had a job where I worked overseas in Papua New Guinea for a couple of years. And I knew I was unfit. I knew I was, not looking my best. And I started sort of back into the swimming, back in a little bit of running. And I just really played with the weights and that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I had young kids and I was back into my current hometown now, Gympie, where I really started to get back into the swimming, back into the running. I even shamefully, I even went to the odd aerobics class. My friend, I know.
I forgive you.
Don't hold it against me, but it was the 90s, my friend. So like that stuff happens.
Of course.
And then when my kids were about 4 and 5, we actually got into. I actually became a volunteer surf lifesaver, so ocean lifeguard for you guys, and that's when I really started to get back into the health and fitness. And again, doing stuff with the kids always take a big part of my life. In about 2010, we all started to do karate together, and that continued through to about 2017 when I got my black belt in 2017. But probably with the training getting towards my black belt about 2015 and 2016, I went to do a grappling course at the local BJJ gym, and they had these funny little black things with handles there. And yeah, from there my journey into the strength and fitness really started to kick on to another level there then. So yeah, that's how I really got into the strength and fitness sort of since then. So it's been a long journey. I can't say that it's had its bumps along the way too, but yeah, basically probably from, I don't know, 2007, 8, that's when the strength journey really began to start again, and it's the last 5-6 years now is when it's really ramped up. So yeah,
very cool. Now along the way, this is something that I always talk about with a lot of my guests, is this concept of racking up a little bit of mileage. And I'm sure that by this point you're already working as a large animal vet. You're working as a lifeguard, you're doing all this other very physical activity like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and other things like that. Did you start racking up like some injuries, and were you starting to notice that like, it's a little difficult to do what I used to do?
Yeah, like if I started to write down, we could talk about injuries. I'd probably be here for the whole podcast talking about injuries if we really wanted to.
Right.
So yeah, look, I've had being a high level competitive swimmer, I've had shoulder tendonitis from way back. So I've had shoulder issues, I've had back issues, but the main one probably in the last 10 years, which has bitten me in the bum, so to speak, was that I actually had some quite nasty elbow issues. Now I've had in the last 10 years, and look, I can't remember exactly when that was, but I've had some rather large bone fragments removed from both my elbows. Whether that's over, we don't even know how it happened basically, but we're talking one of those fragments was probably the size of the, it would have been, I don't know, 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters across was the type, looked like a little pebble when they pulled it out. So wow, that caused some issues, which also led on to, with regards to these elbows, it led on to at one stage there in both arms, I had, apart from having had these fragments removed, I had both golf elbow and tennis elbow at the same time. So, that's you want to screw yourself up. That's one way to do it. So, and I think those are, having had the bad issues within the joint, I think that part of that's just overcompensation basically with these elbows trying to work properly and not doing what they're not being able to do what they're supposed to do. So the elbows got to the point, and the reason why I had to go to have surgery and was they got to the point where I couldn't actually lock them out fully, depending on where that little pebble was in the joint. And then with these tendons, it got to the stage where it was, I was having trouble sleeping at night. So super painful. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't really realize just how much a very small thing like that can have a very big opinion on the rest of your life. How well you sleep, how well you function. And I'm sure that interfered with your job too, right?
Interfered with everything. And because my job's so physical, not being able to sleep at night because the elbows are hurting that bad, but even just simple things that I'd normally do at work where everything is painful all day, every day, basically. And, did I do those injuries at work? Not potentially. Did I do them with all my other crazy pursuits? Probably. So combination of everything led to one unhappy camper for quite a while.
Yeah. Now, I remember when you reached out to me for the first time, it's probably, I would bet, a little after midway through 2020. I remember you were reaching out about a challenge that I did on straight arm strength training called Kick SAS. SAS being short for straight arm scapular strength for the people who are not yet initiated. And what did you find that was very helpful along the way? Because there's no elbow movement. Was it a little easier for you to do any strength training? Was it not much different?
Yeah, so I reached out to you because I needed stuff to do. I hadn't long been at that stage. I don't think I'd been long post surgery, basically. So I was looking at getting myself back into doing stuff again. And even post surgery, I didn't stop doing what I was doing, but I was smart about it. I know you've talked about it before, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning other people's programs, but
sure, no.
But having done an original strength workshop back in, that'd be about 2017, I think, 2018. They had one of their landmark programs, the Unlock Your Body program, which you've mentioned on this podcast before, and that after both my elbow surgeries was the program I did to get me back into actually doing something. Very easy on the elbows, but I still needed more. And when I reached out to you with the SAS, like I'd had surgery quite a while ago, but the tendonitis was flaring up quite badly at that stage. So yeah.
And well, this is one thing too that I think a lot of people don't realize is that there is a lot that goes into training intelligently so that you can kind of avoid issues like this. It's very, if you have a very physical job, this is something that I think is especially salient because, you like physical activity, you have a very physical job, the mileage just racks up very quickly. Yeah. And I know that when you reached out to me, this is shortly after a webinar I did, you reached out about doing some consulting, and the elbows were a big part of one of the things that you wanted to get taken care of. And so walk us through that, because I know that I had given you some ideas, some training pointers and stuff like that to help out. What did you find that it did for your elbows when we started working with me?
Look, I don't want to blow too much smoke up your ass, but it basically fixed them. For you guys who don't know what that means, it's an Australianism. Go look it up. It's all fine.
We say the same thing actually in the US.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's okay then. That's fine. Basically within a few weeks of working with you, just with some simple exercises that you gave me and some simple stretching, continuing on with the original strength stuff, because I've been into that for quite a while now. The pain started to dissipate. The elbows started to work like they should, and that was the big thing for me. Start to sleep better, start to be able to move them, start to be able to do all the things that you like doing. And even to the point I remember prior to coming and working with you, one of my favorite exercises is probably just doing the Hindu push-up, and they'd be like, I'm not doing those, because I knew it was going to hurt like straight away. Wouldn't say I'd be in the corner sucking my thumb in tears, but not far from it. So basically within a few weeks, like it was like, well, okay, well, we can just try. We're not going to go and do it all that set of 50 or anything stupid like that, but let's do a few and see what happens. And you do it and go, okay, that doesn't hurt anymore. Cool. Okay, I'm out doing some palpation of some cows. We do a lot of pregnancy diagnosis, which requires using your arms a lot. And I'm out doing that's like, okay, it's not hurting when I do that anymore. So that was when the real lights on moment for me that, hey, this is really starting to work. So it was great. And like I said, try not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but I can't thank you enough for that, because I'm back to being normal. I don't think I'm normal really, but I'm not really normal, Alex, but I'm back to my normal.
Correct. Yeah. Normal is not something to aspire to. Extraordinary is what we're going for. And I have to say, I think that this is a great example of that, because a lot of people get injured, and, I don't really blame them. It's not easy to find good quality training information. There was a time at which there was so little training information out there that people in some ways actually got better results because they couldn't really program hop. They kind of had to stick with one thing for some time. Yeah. But then on the other hand, I think nowadays, because of a combination of like a fervor for trying to do more training and get in better shape, and then, doing more working out, combined with sedentary living overall, makes people less prepared. And you have a unique situation because it was quite the opposite. You were very physically active, and have been for a very long time. And then you have a very physical job as well. And so the difficulties that come along with it, the possible injuries from the bone fragments that you had in your elbows and things like that. It's normal for people to think this is just the way that life is now, like how the doctors, told me we can remove this, but we can't necessarily make, the pain go away or what have you. So it's completely understandable why people might think there's just no hope. And this is one of the things that I think is very cool about strength training specifically, is that if you have a big enough repertoire of exercises and methods at your disposal, not always, but a lot of times you can really make some serious headway in terms of how you feel, how you perform, and stuff like that. Now, since that has gone on, I know that you've really kind of shifted in some ways from being more endurance oriented to
Yeah.
being more strength focused. And how do you find that your body has held up even since, working on the elbows to allow you to achieve other great stuff like, tons and tons of snatches in a single session, or, lots of pull-ups, and we're working on one-arm push-ups now and things like that?
Yeah. 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 It's been good. I'm definitely not. Look, if you define fitness by, the ability to go and run, 10 or 20 Ks or swim ridiculous amounts like I used to, anything up to, 6 or 8 Ks, I'm definitely not as fit in that way as what I was. No doubt about that at all. But I've sort of, if you get that strength and endurance, continuing with endurance right at one end and strength right at the other end, I think I'm probably sitting in the middle now, which is probably where I need to be. So that's a good thing. So yeah, I that's where it is. Look, that talking about snatching kettlebells, that up until last year I'd never snatched the 24 kilo kettlebell, and after doing the Valhalla program and then modifying it, running it for 3 months, I went out and like obliterated the snatch test basically with the 24, having never snatched before a 24 kilo before in my life. So
yeah, that was very cool to see. And I think this is another great example too, where people oftentimes think, well, you know what, again, I've got a very busy life. I got a wife, I got kids, I got, job. So I don't necessarily have, maybe I just, this working out stuff is not for me, and I'm getting older, and people have all sorts of excuses, and, you've got all those things too. And I think in some cases you've also got, things are a little bit more difficult because you have a very physical job. You got some serious injuries that you've racked up and that you've since overcome, and it's all about keeping the right perspective. And because of that, at a I don't want to say an advanced age, because it wouldn't say you're all that old, but
dude, I'm 47. Let's just put it out there. I'm an old fart. Like it's fine. I don't care, but I'm rocking it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the tough old dude that everybody really aspires to be.
Well, I remember back when I was back in my university days, one of my jobs I used to do, I was actually a swimming coach for a while. It made sense, like that's what I could do. And there was a fellow that was the head coach at the time, and his real job is he was actually the fitness trainer at the police academy. This dude could do some stuff.
Yeah.
So that was nothing. And I used to look up to him and go, he would have been my age that I'm at now, and he was the still dude who was rocking it. Calisthenics and running was his jam, but he was still rocking it out at that age. And I went, when I've got late teenage kids, I want to be like him, because I want to be that crazy dude that everybody looks at that goes, oh my God, what's he doing? And I am. I am that now.
Very much so.
Really simple.
I'm no, that is very cool. And I have to say, that is, I think, what everybody really aspires to. And periodically you'll see a video of like an old dude, for example, getting into a fight with a younger guy and just schooling him. And it could be other things too. It could be a sports event, it could be whatever. But I've seen a couple where it was like some altercations, let's say, and you're rooting for the older dude, because you're like, yeah, this guy, he's got some mileage on his body, he's got some experience under his belt. And the dude is still, he's still can handle.
I have that reputation at the surf club. I'm the training officer there now, so I have that reputation. The young kids don't take me on. It's really that simple.
Good. That's exactly what you should aspire to.
Yeah.
And now I think what's especially cool about your transformation, let's say over the last year or so, is that you've also been able to recruit your wife and your daughters as well, and they're like a big part of the whole thing. So like, was it difficult to convince them, or were they pretty on board?
No, so my daughters, my 3 daughters have been swimmers themselves. That's never been that's a thing. They were swimmers, always physically active. It's interesting, but I remember when I was back doing the running thing, even from a young age, with the kids from a young age, I used to do that. Well, I need quality time with the kids. My wife needs a break. So I started off with, we had 1 child, so I'd start off, that one's in the pram, we're running with it. And then when we had 2, it's like, okay, well, they're still very young. I had 2 of them in the pram. By the time we got to 3, there was 1 running with me. So, and then all of a sudden it gets a little bit older. I've got 2 running with me and 1 in the pram. And so the actual working out together and that sort of stuff, that's always been something that's been there. And the kids used to, I'm going with dad, we're going running, or I'm going with dad, dad's going to do whatever. And then, probably within the last 12 to 18 months, maybe a little, actually around the time COVID hit, the kids are just like, swimming wasn't happening anymore, and they never really got back to it anymore. But that just meant that they were looking for something else to do. And so particularly my eldest daughter just went, we've always done this, I'm just going to start working it with dad. Whatever dad's doing, kettlebell wise, bodyweight wise, I'm in doing that with dad. So now I've got my eldest daughter's definitely working out with me almost all the time. She's away at college now, away at uni, but it's quite often that iPhone will ring at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there's the FaceTime call going, we're working out together now.
I love it. That's probably, I think, the most important thing if you're going to get into fitness as a parent, is to instill that same love of your same love of fitness and strength and that sort of a thing with your kids. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to make it kind of like a family tradition that you're going to work out at the same time, even with the distance. That's what I think is very cool. The FaceTime call, and you guys are doing the workouts together and everything like that. So that's phenomenal. Now, is she doing crazy amounts of snatches and everything? She's keeping up like rep for rep, or what's she up to?
No, she's not snatching yet. She's done some basic kettlebell stuff with one of our local kettlebell instructors. So can she press? Yes. Can she swing? Oh, like a demon, no problems at all. But yeah, I'm definitely not qualified to teach her to snatch, and it's one of the things that she wants to do. But we just got to find the time to get her some instruction. So yeah, it just happens that every time your friend Pierce is running something to teach snatches over there, that there's a college party the night before. So she's got to get her priorities right. She's at college. So yeah.
No, she doesn't. What she needs to do is she just needs to get some pickle juice, because that will kill any hangover. And then you show up, you do a hard workout. I picked this up from Mark Rifkin, by the way, because this is what he said. Now, Pavel wrote a very famous article back in 1998 called Vodka, Pickle Juice, Kettlebell Lifting, and Other Russian Pastimes. And vodka is obviously the thing you do first, and then you wake up in the morning with a hangover, you drink the pickle juice, and you lift kettlebells. And Mark Rifkin was like, yeah, hard workout when you're hungover is a great way to get rid of. I never would have assumed that to be the case at all, but he insists that that's the case. So you got to
if you actually think of the physiology of it, it actually makes perfect sense. You're just increasing the, liver needs to pull the toxins out. Yeah. And by working out, you're just increasing the blood flow. So increasing the rate of blood flow through the liver. So it makes perfect sense to me. And I've done that for years. Not that I don't drink anymore, it just doesn't agree with me. But yeah, get up in the morning, I'm going for a run with a hangover, because by the time I'm finished, I'm feeling $1 million. Well, okay, maybe $500,000, but anyway, far better than the $0 you were feeling beforehand.
Correct. Yeah, I drink so irregularly, and I've only ever had a couple hangovers. And at that time, it never would have occurred to me to work out. I was like, I'm going to try the greasy food thing. Maybe that will help. Didn't do all.
No, you got to do that as well. That's on top of after the run. Then you go and do that. It's fine.
Yeah, I mixed it up. It was like I just did that first and then sat around. If I had known better, things would have been totally different. So I hope your daughter will hear this, and then she will take more of your words of wisdom, and she'll say, oh, okay, well, you know what? Next time it's pickle juice, kettlebell lifting, and then some greasy food, and she'll be perfectly
Maybe. All right. She's 18. She knows everything. It's fine.
Of course. Well, all kids at her age do. I mean, she's what, like 18 now?
Yeah, 19. I'm about to turn 19. So yeah.
Yeah, 19. So she knows everything already. So as long as she knows this fact, then she will be good to go.
Yep.
Now, any words of wisdom that you have for the listeners who are in a similar circumstance? Let's say, they're married, got a busy career, they got kids. How do you make it a priority to fit fitness into your life no matter what?
You just got to do it. Like it's that simple. Just prioritize it. It's really that simple. Well, it depends what's important to you. If being strong and fit and healthy makes you happy, and let's face it, it should. It's really that simple. And you don't have to go. I'm a bit of a science nerd. That's my job. But you don't have to go and look at. You go to reputable science stuff, and you can see that being physical, being strong, being healthy actually makes people happy. Like there's no doubt about that at all. You just need to make it a priority. And then, basically for me, if I want to do stuff and the kids were younger and I want to really get serious about doing things that, maybe the kids can't join in with, just get up before they do. It's quite easy. It's not a problem. Like you know that come nighttime when you get home from work and your wife's at home and she's got the little kids and stuff, you know what's happening when it's coming through the door, that you're getting kids thrown at you. So you just need to make it a priority. Get up in the morning, get up a little bit earlier, do what you need to do, and then, you know, once you've done that really hard stuff that you need to do that you can't do with the kids around, or with that, then you can go, right, I can do the style of workout that I can do with the kids. They can come and join me. They can, and that's how I've always worked that, and make it into quality time. Like it is quality time when myself and my daughters are working out together. It's quality time. All sorts of discussions get had about what's happening in their life and what's happening in dad's life and all that sort of stuff. Get them into your workouts. Like if they're not old enough to do the workout with you, that they always are, get them to join in with you. There's photos of me using my daughter's 4 loaded carries. There's actually a photo of me using one of my daughters on my back doing loaded crawls.
Love it.
It's, and they love that. You know what? Fantastic. I get to horsey ride with dad for the next 5 minutes. Fantastic. Like that. Yeah. They love it. They get involved in it, and then they want to join in and do stuff. So yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, because a lot of people have a tendency to try to over compartmentalize their lives. Like, okay, now I need my alone time for fitness, and then I'll spend quality time with the kids. And I like your approach of overlapping them, because then you get like a third benefit, which is the kids really like it, and then they want to be fit, they want to be in shape, they want to exercise. Doesn't get better than that.
We've got 8 kilo kettlebells at home for that exact reason.
It's brilliant.
I certainly don't need them. I've never used one ever, and they're there because the teenagers wanted to get involved. So yeah,
I love it. I think it's very smart. Well, normally I would ask people, how can people follow you online? But you are a man of mystery, and you don't have too many social media accounts, as I recall.
They're there, but I don't remember the last time I used any of them. It's just, it's not my thing. I got better things to do than waste my time on social media. But
I like that attitude.
You can probably direct message me, but if they really want to get in contact with me, but yeah, I'm pretty boring, really. So
if you really want to get in contact with Justin, bring your sick horse or cow in to see him in Queensland, Australia, and he will get it all taken care of. And your large animal will be right as rain, so you won't be able to complain about that. Well, Justin, thank you very much for being on the show.
Excellent. I've had a fun time.
The pleasure has been all mine. And folks, if you have enjoyed this episode, I highly encourage you to share it around. Justin doesn't have social media, so you share it on social media for him. You got to be his eyes and ears, and encourage people to listen. We all need to band together if we want to crush weakness. I know Justin has done an excellent job of doing that with himself and the other people in his life. And now we are going to pass the baton on to you, dear listener, to encourage others to do precisely the same. So go forth, crush weakness, and as always, have fun and happy training.